Welcome back to Dum Dum's 2099, where improvisers who've never role-played before journey into a futuristic world of Dungeons & Dragons. I am the Grand Wizard Bukake, your host. Alyn, Honor System, and Declan found an ally in Dr. Moreau. The doctor gave Declan some anti-bee flesh grenades. Honor System received organic musculature and upgraded hands, and Alyn was told about a juice that will turn her into a god. Can they achieve their 3 new goals? Kill the bees, nuke the moon, and drink the juice? Find out next on Dum-Dums and Dragons 2099.
As you crawl up into the sort of secret vent leading out of Dr. Moreau's admittedly hijacked lab, so the old Illithid structure that the Moon Citadel is built next to, Honor System, you feel the metal under your fingers. You can feel again that sort of pulsing of blood that is circulating. Now, granted, you don't have a heart, so you don't really want to know how that's working. But Moreau works in mysterious ways. But you're feeling the sensation of hands for the first time as you pull yourself up into these vents. What is that? How does Honor System react to that?
I think because internally, Honor System is still a machine. These different sort of sensory data points are just being collected and sort of collated, and just not necessarily something I'm experiencing right now, but like pain as an example is like an instinctual level. You usually like recoil from pain. Whereas I feel like Honor System with that kind of sensory input and like any other kind of like stimuli would just be like leaving your hand there, like pain. Oh, this is just going to keep causing pain. I understand. And just like saving the pain column and being like, okay, that's what that is. So it's just, it's a lot to take in. But there's a mission to be done as well. So I think it is sort of it's all being taken in, but very kind of passively. He can't allow it to distract him right now, but it is fascinating. Yeah.
Is there anything subconsciously showing on his faceplate while he's moving around and experiencing this for the first time?
Yeah. Actually, that's a great question. And I hadn't thought of anything until you asked, and now I like this a lot, is like the word pain, cold, hard, whatever. It's just a list of just every sensory input is just being listed on his faceplate. It's just a scrolling list. You can catch words here and there, but it is moving quite quickly as like just every new sensory or just repeating sensory is just coming through a scroll on his faceplate.
I don't know why I'm picturing it in the yellow Star Wars font with like that theme behind it about like feelings, only it's like sped up so it can roll faster as you go through them. But that's where my brain is rolling with it.
I'm imagining like watching a website compile where it's just like lines of jagged code just zipping by, like when you used to boot up a DOS screen and everything was visible. Or, if you're playing Buddy Simulator right now, like I am, where it just makes you do that to remind you that you are turning to dust one year at a time. Amazing. Okay. Love that. Okay. So the three of you get up into the vents. From the sounds of things, Moreau can hold the line for a bit, and also seems to have pretty good access to the camera feeds from around the structure. So he's kind of keeping an eye on things. The three of you have a sort of a moment alone as you Bruce Willis die hard your way through the vent systems towards the sort of cannon control floor, or at least the floor that it's on, which is sort of one layer back up. This is it's a steep climb for a bit up sort of ladder rungs. Again, you can tell that this was basically built as like a keep Moreau in line shaft, just in case. So easy enough to just drop like a swarm of, nano. We say drones a lot in various contexts, but in this case, like if you need to drop a swarm of like vicious nanites through to attack him, easy way to do it. Or, if you were made of bees, a very easy way to get around. Of course, you'd lose your suit, but when you're visiting your weird pseudo dad / creator, why not? So the three of you have a sort of a moment on this long snake eater style climb up, because this will deliver you above the atrium that we saw in the previous scene. So it's a couple stories of climbing. Moreau's building was a few stories high, so it's not going to take you an hour or anything, but it's a bit of a climb. So you do have kind of a moment to check in with each other as you go. If there's anything you would want to check in with, otherwise we'll jump ahead.
So, Alyn, I feel like you might have got some of your magical spells back. Have you got another like fireball in you?
And I just say, well, no, let's see. And I just kind of hold my hand out, and I'm imagining it like Avatar, The Last Airbender, like firebenders. They could just create like a little flame, like just a tiny little flame in the palm of their hand. It's like, oh yeah, it's back.
Sorry. You do that, but it is in no way tiny. It actually flares up and blossoms almost like a flower of flame, still controlled within your hand.
Oh, okay.
But
You just cast fireball point blank.
It's just like just a fireball.
whoa.
Well, not anymore.
Please don't waste it. Please don't waste it.
Wouldn't be
Please don't
the
waste it.
first
Put it
and
away.
last. Yeah, so it's certainly not that large, but you get the sense that it is more potent than you'd expected, and that the magical energies are flowing through you, perhaps more strongly now. You're not quite sure why.
And Alyn just says, "Huh," and she runs through just automatically, like kind of all of the powers that she can like draw from, the different types of energy that she can produce, and just sees how it feels.
It doesn't feel great, but it is there. So it's a little bit like having a bad connection.
Okay.
But as you're rotating through, and you get the sense that it's almost like waking up a tired muscle. So the ones you've been using, fire, acid, very, very potent right now. But as you roll frost across your fingers, you roll frost across your fingers. As you roll lightning across your fingers, you've used that here. It's similarly, rather than just being, electrical little bolts dancing between your fingers, like your hand crackles with power.
Okay. To answer your question, yes.
Okay, I'm thinking we might need to save that one for the giant flight of bees. So let's not blast that off at anything small along the way. Do you have anything else that'll fuck up a whole group of bees?
Um,
You did that lightning thing that like fried a shitload of people. Do you think you could burn a bunch of bees?
I don't think that'll hit a swarm.
Okay. Is there anything else in the tank for that? All I'm saying is, if there is, save it.
Yeah, and Alyn just kind of tests, like, how much cold can she muster?
Right now, not a ton, but you
much.
can feel it. It's the kind of thing where it's like this is a weird metaphor, but it's like the reverse of a lighter that's running low on fuel. Every time you spark it, it's a little bit more, but you can tell that you almost kind of need your energies to charge a bit. But there's definitely you feel lighter. You feel certainly a little more untethered than you previously have. That said, this is an odd feeling. It feels somewhat artificial.
Oh, weird.
You don't feel like you do on Dumb Favorite.
Okay. Well, there's definitely something strange going on. I seem to have more power than I've had, but I can't guarantee when I can use it. I feel it, but it's just odd. I think it'll come.
Right, we're going to have to trust you on that one, because I don't know anything about magic. So right now you're kind of describing a painting to a blind person. Like, I don't speak the language at all. Unless, can you describe it like emotionally or through metaphor rather than it just saying it's strange because I don't know what normal feels like.
You know when you're trying to get in touch with someone on like a communicator, but they're really far away. And as you get closer, it starts to get clearer.
Yeah, like as you get closer to the Wi-Fi router. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of feeling like that, but instead of
Wait, are you close
getting
to the router?
closer in
or-
distance, I feel like only time will bring me closer.
So you're on a conveyor belt moving you towards the Wi-Fi router.
I think so. I hope so. But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I don't need sure right now. I just need you to do your job. So just hang on to anything that'll hurt the fucking bees. That's the big priority. Don't blast those off early.
Mm-hmm.
System, how's your hands and musculature and everything treating you?
It is very strange. I'm receiving a litany, a series of new sensations. I'm cataloging them for now, but I would like to discover more about this sooner or later, assuming we survive. And it occurs to Honor System to draw Legion out and make sure that he can still wield his weapon effectively and how it feels in his hands.
I think because you're kind of dealing with the opposite of what, like a human suddenly having a robot hand, I think would have more adjustment time because your base skeletal structure is still mechanical. It's like wielding it with a thin pair of gloves on. So it's definitely like the grip feels a little bit different. Honestly, I think the grip probably feels.
The grip feels
better. Yeah. Well, the grip feels, but also like. Just think of like holding a golf club with your naked hand versus with a glove. And it's like, I think the difference for Honor System is because hands have sort of innate grip through the, the ridges on our hands, the moisture in them, everything else. You've got a firmer grip on Legion than you normally would. The catch is if you're a robot, it's purely pressure. Right, like if you're pressure gripping it, it's not like the robot's hands would necessarily have grips on them. So it's easier, I think. It'd be like if you're used to a heavier sword, it almost feels a bit lighter because you don't need to death grip it anymore to hold it. It's not going to mechanically affect you at all, I don't think. It's just again like wearing a thin pair of gloves, but also giving you a bit more tactile sense. I think maybe, Tyler, what we could say mechanically for you is it likely gives you the ability to make a bit more of a flourish of things, because since you're feeling the weight in your hand, if that is something Honor System would add. With Declan's brain cross-coded, it might be, but I'll leave that up to you. It could be a situational thing for you, but none of Moreau's stuff, to be clear, like the goal mechanically for me of Moreau's tinkering is that it gives you slightly more health.
Yep.
Not that it impedes your abilities. So if anything, the additional musculature has brought you back up to like the health being simply you are more able to do what you were previously able to do, not that it's given you a tremendously large amount of stuff. Plus, like without skin, the musculature really doesn't feel like much. It's just numb. It can hurt,
what you're saying,
but it's
Honor System will say holding his sword and sort of flexing and gripping his hands around the grip of the sword. He says, I think I have a firmer understanding of the flesh and bone warriors who developed this style of combat. I understand the techniques that I just had downloaded into my computer, my brain. I understand some of the reasoning and understand some of the intention behind them now, more than I did before.
Interesting. Also, it's always like impressive and disturbing in equal measure to watch you climb a ladder with just your legs. I have to say it looking up at you climbing this ladder, because it's just, you've got the sword in both hands, but somehow you're still climbing this ladder.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
It's the bottom of one foot is on the lower rung, and the top of the other foot is hooked under a higher up rung. And just from the strength of his mechanical legs, he's like leaning back, almost like perpendicular to the ladder, and is doing a quick little kata, and then sheathes the sword, and then you just hear like the little like ankle gears go as he like comes back in line with the ladder and starts to climb up again.
That little
I have like
moment.
special legs. We haven't really talked about it, but like I have upgraded legs from way back when we rebuilt ourselves in that chop shop. One of the things I got was legs.
That's metal as hell.
Yeah. It's not come up, but like I have to fall 50 feet before we start to calculate fall damage. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
It's a little bit like revealing that you secretly have a degree in astrophysics that's just never come up on air before. It's like, oh yeah, and also I guess this. I don't know. I don't talk about it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Here I thought we were just doing a bit, but it's a mechanically sound bit. I was like, yeah, this is fun. Really cool. Whatever. That's awesome. Great. Okay. So with all of that, after Honor System finishes his kata and uses his magical servo legs to get back in line, the three of you make it to the top of the ladder and exit into sort of a small custodian's closet. There are a number of sort of mops and brooms, that sort of thing, that are set up. There is a large, like you see another one of those emergency hatches that you've seen everywhere for the drone soldiers to enter through very quickly if they need to. Again, these things, since it's been a hot sec, almost like you can think of them as slightly bigger than what you would find a coiled fire hose in like an apartment building or building. So probably about 3.5 feet wide, 3.5 feet high. Very much like someone can launch themselves out of it, launch themselves into it, and it's very much built for those purposes and connects through to the rest of the building. In this case, this one has coveralls kind of like hanging in front of it off hooks. It's clearly a disused one. They've built these into everything, but it's a custodian's closet, so it's not a recently used or an often used emergency chute. The closet itself has a door against the wall that leads clearly into, like, it's a small square room, door that leads out onto the floor that you're trying to access, and then this vent is kind of on the very bottom of the floor for airflow / bee flow if the bees need to get through. And other than that, there's like a couple of garbage cans. There's a push cart with various cleaning supplies on it. You get the sense that this building hasn't been cleaned a lot yet, just because it's still coming online. So there's an abundance of materials in here. Or rather, there's the materials that are in here haven't been used a bunch. There are racks for more things that just haven't been loaded yet. What do you do?
Declan still got his silencer on his rifle. Would just move to the door to listen to see if he can hear what's outside.
Sure. So outside, you can hear the muted pulse of the alarm system that is still ringing from when you set it off, sort of in the main hall. It is one of those pleasant low tone alarms that's meant to not cause undue panic, which kind of tracks with your understanding of if all of the executives and kind of the ruling powers that be of the conglomerata were here, they need to feel like they're in control at all times. They wouldn't want a jarring alarm, which is of huge benefit to you guys, because it means that, similar to these like tubes in the walls and everything else, if they're trying to prevent any outward sense of concern, that means they're actually putting safety second. So that gives you a bit of benefit in terms of how the security systems are set up and how you can get around. It basically buys you like an extra beat before anyone can show up to anything, because they've gone through the effort of tucking it all away, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Remind me again how it is we came up to this room from the ladder. Was it through a hatch?
It's through a small floor vent. So right. Think at the not flush to the floor, but kind of if you climbed up the ladder. It's at floor level, and it's sort of a small ventilation grate. So you push that out of the way. You've been able to climb in. Otherwise, it's like a sheer drop down the ladder to Moreau's ceiling.
With Declan having moved in to listen and things like that, honor system is remaining by that hatch to like from time to time check and see if there's any pursuers, or even like hear if there's any commotion coming from Moreau's lab. We know what he's ultimately waiting to happen down there, but honor system wants to make sure that when they're coming, we know it.
Sure. Did you want to try and seal it up?
Or would you rather entrance, keep it open? That would be a good idea for when we move along. Okay. But for right now, we're still in the room, right? We're just having a look around at things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, Tyler, can you roll me, please, a perception check?
19.
19. Okay. You can hear some muted tunes echoing up. It's grand, sweeping, like Faerun orchestral. So, it's like ancient elven songs that have been kind of passed along, and now, of course, have like a throbbing Skrillex beat over them. Just a little bit, though. Like it's the classiest possible version. There's only occasional wobs in there, but there certainly are from time to time. But no sounds of conflict yet. You get the sense that Moreau's chef rats probably ran pretty far and wide throughout the base. And the fact that he kept releasing more probably sowed enough confusion that you've got kind of a couple rounds worth of time, if we were putting it in rounds, before they even arrive at his door, let alone
come after us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Declan would whisper back to system, like, lock that shut, and then we can get out of here.
Yes.
Cool.
What can I barricade this with?
I think between like the car. Oh, well, sorry, Laura, you looked like you were going to say something.
No, I was just looking at what we have, and it's like there's a push cart. If we can, if that is big enough to cover it.
Yeah, I think you could probably the thing is, with the amount of skills and abilities you have now, like I have no trouble believing that if you push that cart over and use Legion and then like Acid, you could easily just fuse one of the platforms to the grate. This isn't a hard thing to do. You're under no pressure and you have more than enough capabilities. So I think that's an easy enough thing to do. I think maybe honor system. Let's roll a. The hell would we even roll here? If I can get I'll take a mechanics or a streetwise, please. Okay. And anyone else can help with it. Alyn, if you think you'd be helping.
Yeah. I just
That
send acid arrows at the joints once we get stuff into place.
Great. Sorry, Tyler, what'd you roll?
That's another 19.
Damn. All right, great. So you don't even need the advantage. So you do a phenomenal job. It's like a fully welded shut piece. Mainly wanted to roll just to see how firm it was, but it is very solid. You've essentially blocked that entrance. From what you remember of Moreau's lab, it wasn't an easy entrance to find in the first place, and with this, it would just be far too inconvenient. So you've essentially blocked off any pursuers who are coming via the lab will be stuck there now.
Okay. The door to this room, Tom, does it open out? Does it open in towards us, or is it like up-down sci-fi door?
I think it's an up-down sci-fi door. In this case, it'll be one of those Star Trek doors that slides into the wall, just for ease of cart use and everything else. Mm-hmm. And it's not locked.
Great.
Actually, sorry. It is locked, but it's locked in such a way that your little hacker... Like basically every door in the building is now locked due to the lockdown, but it's not a properly secured door. So you can basically tap your key to open it.
Okay, so I don't need to like roll a
No, you don't need to roll for anything. I just like for flavor want to ensure that it's like, yes, everything is locked. You've just overridden the locks enough now that like you can just tap
that feels right. So he would just have the others stack up behind him and just be like, when this thing opens, I'm going straight forward. System, you go right. Alyn, you cover left.
Yes.
Got it.
And then just rifles up, make sure everybody's ready, then hits go, bam, all like out the door.
Right. So the door hisses open, and you exit into a larger sort of maintenance room, higher ceiling. It's got proper schematics up on the walls. There's no one in here, so you've got your gun. You've got your rifle up, right?
Yep.
So,
Silence rifle.
So you're like clearing the room with your rifle. The room is currently empty. There is duty assignments on the walls, as well as kind of like to-do lists, that sort of thing. Large rack of technical manuals, and sort of a repair station. There's a disassembled maintenance droid sort of laying across a table. You get the sense again that they're using the Amazon Basics line of droids for this, so sometimes they don't do so good. That's what free returns are for. But from this room, there is a large, much more industrial door as you come in to your right. That is clearly labeled as like the sort of like power cell recharging station, so somewhere that people go to like charge things up. To your left is a door that leads from the sort of map and the rough schematic that you got from Moreau, leads to the Zeus cannon control room. There's like a small plateau, and then it leads over. I will say all of these are kind of, this floor isn't a solid block. It's kind of like almost catwalks between things. So it doesn't, they're not using undue space here. It's like all the rooms are suspended. So a small walkway extends from the door to your left to a little plateau. That plateau in turn leads to the control station.
Okay, so right is power station, left is Zeus
left
cannon.
is controls. Directly ahead, there is another large door that leads to the sort of remote generator. So quantum energy, like you can basically think of this almost as a wireless charging station. So massive Star Trek warp core style coil in kind of a large circular room, a little bit of a Cerebro vibe going on, that is just kind of like crackling with the electricity as it's being charged by various MFTs throughout the building that are clearly powering this, but aren't in the same room with it necessarily. So yes, to your right, battery charging. Straight ahead, the generator. To the left is control.
Declan's staying completely subvocal because we don't know where hostiles are in this area, but he's going to talk to the other two and just say, controls feel like the last thing to me. We got to clear the rest, kill anybody who's in here so they can't lock this down once we want to shoot it. Then we take the controls.
Yep. And just like we agreed beforehand, Honor System has broken right out of the door, and he's heading up to what I think was the power cells on the right. So that's where he's going with his sword drawn, trying to be as quiet as possible.
Sure.
I'm thinking we go in as three to each of these rooms and just take out whoever's in them because we need extreme force. There could be no emergency calls.
Right.
Understood. I'll wait for you two then.
Does that make sense, Alyn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can I get stealth rolls, please?
Ooh. 23.
24.
30.
Oh, fuck.
Here I am with my sad little 15, and I was like, pretty good. Not good enough, apparently. The doors hiss open, and there is a sort of a much more industrial sort of catwalk situation between here and the power station. I think in this case it's like the charging station. It opens and you're moving like at speed, but as quietly as you can along the catwalk. Luckily, once you're kind of, and I will say these things are enclosed in glass, so it's not open to the elements on either side. You quickly zip across that. You can see through it, but it's sort of vaguely tinted. But you can see down into the atrium and kind of into the lower citadel. You get the sense that this thing is tucked away in the ceiling, where no one's supposed to really see it or care about it. just generally before your sort of upper executive floors. You rush across this small walkway to the power station doors. Same situation. Slam up against it. Door opens with your incredibly good stealth rolls. It's like one of those video games where you breach the door. Just the doors open, and there are a number of Amazon workers inside who are at this point, I think, unplugging half-charged batteries with the alarm system going. They don't really want, like, you can see that they're stacking them and securing them because this is a bad time to be charging batteries. Doors open, and you just hear it's an orc who's sliding one in saying, "Oh, there was no inspection scheduled," and they all sort of turn in slow motion. What do you do?
Declan starts shooting. There's no hesitation on him
Yeah.
the moment he sees a person.
Alyn
Bullet
is
in the head.
ready to just 2 quick acid arrows.
Honor system surges forward.
Right. The three of you make short work of the room. We don't need to roll for this. This is like high stealth, getting the drop on people who are busy doing a task. So you just annihilate.
Blood sprays and just
Yeah.
like hissing of acid is all that's left.
Yeah, Alyn, you
Yeah.
when you launch acid, it almost feels like it's slipping out of your grip. It's so it comes so easily to you that rather than kind of throwing it with the force you have to, it's like you're halfway there. It's almost hard to control the launch. So we get like a proper goblin face melt situation,
Yay!
like in the good old days. And one of them manages to get a gun and like swing it around, but by that point, honor system, you're in there. They slice them in half as they fire into the ceiling. But they were unprepared and were not are non-combatants. They didn't manage to set off any alarms. And you can see, so again, in here, these are large scale battery cells likely for running things like the Uber Hyperloop. Not the trains themselves because they run off that central rail, but any of the maintenance things, just like big old, like in small terms would be like, if for us it'd be charging a walkie-talkie or a drill, but just that for like large machines. So just big battery cells of quantum energy. So you've taken the room. Similarly, like to the previous room, there are vents. Like those emergency hatches are in pretty much every room you're going to see from here on out. But nothing is coming through it. It would seem that the drones are still very tied up with searching and destroying rats. Declan, can you roll me a robotics, please? Do you have robotics and engineering or just robotics?
I have robotics. I have a much lower engineering. I have robotics as his strength.
Robotics is fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't pulling your wrong stat.
Nope. You pulled the right one. 14.
14. Okay. So a quick look around in here, Declan, and I think with the maintenance room previously as well, you can tell that there are maintenance droids sort of throughout the base. And you've seen a few of them. There's the big one that you saw disassembled in the previous room.
Mm-hmm.
But looking around here, you can definitely tell there are like almost the equivalent of like nano swarms for patch jobs, for quick external repairs. There's the bigger, clunkier robots that zip around. You'd read about these things, and I think they were a constant threat during the corporate wars. They hadn't been used in combat, but the threat that someone would launch a swarm of small robots, like an airborne robot swarm, was like a real clear and present danger. It never happened, but you can see with the amount of quantum energy Amazon is playing with up here that they've managed to get a system of sort of maintenance and repair droids up and running through these swarms, which also makes sense of some of the events you've been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, with the technology, with your role in the technology between this room and the previous room, you're pretty sure you can, if you could, like once you get to control, if you can get to a slightly larger power source, you might be able to hijack one of these swarms.
Cool.
So you collect what you need for that. There's like key access plus a power source and a few other things. But you have that when you access control.
Great. Using my hacker's kit as well, Tom, is there do any of these maintenance workers have a comm system? Because odds are there's a comm network for maintenance as opposed to combat or other things.
Yep.
Great. Declan is at this point just collecting different comm systems to patch himself into, because he's like, are there other maintenance people here? He might be able to track military by where they're pulling maintenance out of. Like, all that kind of shit. Very passively. Again, he's more combat focused in the moment, but he's just looking for tools and shit to hang on to.
Would you be turning that on immediately, or is that like the next time you have downtime?
He'd be turning it on, but listening, not like turning it on and standing there and listening for 5 minutes. It's just
It's
turning it on to have it
right.
wash over him as he's moving.
Okay, so as you move back out of power, back into maintenance, you collect the pieces you need. And Alyn and Honor System, is there anything in this room that you wanted or needed?
I just want to seal that vent.
Okay, that will take some time. You would likely need to stay here and work on that, only because the difference between the vent you sealed earlier and these is these are like emergency vents with servos in them. That was just a grate. So if you want to try and seal this thing shut, they are specifically built to make that hard, since they are the primary security system. You could work on it though. You could also try and fuse the door shut to this space. It wouldn't hold for a long time, but you could try.
Well, if a door wouldn't hold for a long time, then fusing something over the vent would also not hold for a long time. So if the door is easier, seems like it'll be faster.
Sure.
That's what Alyn would vote for.
And we can double lock the door. Declan would also use his hacker's kit to just like encrypt the door so nobody can get through. And then if we seal it from the outside, they actually won't be aware on the inside, if we're subtle with it, that it's sealed. So they could spend time trying to hack it and then discover we fused the door. Buy that extra 30 seconds.
Great. So you do that. You don't need to roll for that. I think that's an easy enough thing, given that you're not under stress. You make your way back to the main maintenance room, sort of maintenance command. And Declan, from your new comm system, you just hear like, "Hi, this is Kevin Flimclang in diagnostics here. Just noticing a bit of a slowdown in productivity in the decharging station. As you know, under any emergency order, it is vitally important that all batteries are stowed safely. So, and I'm not saying this to be a dick, but you're falling beneath expected quotas, and honestly, based on our drill time, you're already running longer. I should see batteries in storage, and there are not batteries in storage. This will be reflected on your performance review, and remember, bathroom breaks depend on performance." Okay? Okay, great. So get those batteries sorted, or you will all be in trouble. Thank you.
And Declan will just subfocus the others and be like, "Yeah, somebody's going to show up to start checking on maintenance pretty quickly. We're going to need to fucking move." And he'll go for the power room because we want to go to controls last, so we can't like try to fire up a cannon and have somebody depower the whole fucking thing.
Oh, so the central generator?
Yeah, whatever the generator is. Because if they deactivate the generator, it doesn't matter if we have fucking controls.
Yeah. So you approach the generator doors, and you find that actually this one is sealed. There seems to be kind of a magnetic seal on it. The generator is currently in use. You can see like large bolts sort of striking the central coil, and it seems like it's in safety lockdown. So essentially, like from here at least, well, it's because in theory, again, like. You know my thoughts on interruption theory. Without interruption, if this was just a normal day powering our giant city-killing cannon, it would be very much like, okay, everybody clear the space, charging cannon, fired cannon. Presumably we don't need to fire the cannon again for a bit. But because they've been firing the cannon so much, they're kind of constantly microcharging it. So it is currently in lockdown.
Great. That's fine, because that keeps the generator safe. Declan would plug in to see if he could re-encrypt those controls so they can't open it or shut it down remotely. Like if he can get in to be like, I want to make this like a Faraday cage around this generator so it just keeps running.
You can't from here. This is a dumb lock, but you can from the control. In this case, it's very much like control system in control is what's operating the Faraday cage, to your point, and the locks. From there, you could probably fuck with these things a bit more, but from here, it really is just like when the door is sealed, the door is sealed. Please don't open the door. We all die.
Right, all right. This thing's active and it's locked down in the simple way. When we take the controls, I lock this fucker down so nobody can get in there and we can start blasting. Looks like the first thing we're going to do, just to make sure everyone is following what's happening, is probably fired a cannon into the moon, and then we might go weightless for the next portion of this combat. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Sure, why not?
I mean, there may be another way to go. Who fucking knows? I just want to acknowledge that could be the way this plays out.
Just to clarify from Moreau's comments, you'll need to fire the cannon at full strength, and basically like knock out the citadel and the moon. So you can shoot the moon if you want. His intent was you blast through the citadel to the core. So
just destroying, yeah.
So
Okay.
blowing everything up behind you. So think of this more as you're like, or at least you can certainly, if you want to fuck with it, you can. But his suggestion was to use this as your like, cool guys don't look at explosions on the way out.
Cool. Then they'll rig that up, and he's like, "Take that back. Sorry, fucked up the plan. I'm still putting it together. I'll hook this up to my fucking system on an ongoing basis so that we can pull the plug, shall we say, or pull the trigger. If we fuck this up, we get to at least nuke Bezos and this fucking place. I'll run it through my hack and clip, and we'll also be able to plug it into U system. So worst case scenario, my kit gets broke again. You can pull the trigger. Someone can pull the fucking trigger. I'll do a backup and we'll get you a fucking tablet off of some asshole all fucking kill in the controls. Is everybody ready to go get fucking sneaky and do a whole bunch more murders?
Yes. Ready
Always.
to go.
Fucking A. Same pattern, same focus. Let's fucking do this.
And with that, the three of you burst into the control room. Now, look, if you get to control a giant cannon in space in your life, that's a pretty cool thing. And in the greater scheme of Amazon jobs, a very impressive one. The control room is a small, blindingly white space. It's just lit by an extraordinary amount of overhead lighting. It's very meticulous, and in a lot of ways, it kind of looks like a 60s sci-fi set. So everyone is in vaguely nautical uniforms, still in the Amazon like yellow and black look. But this is a weird pull, but I'm specifically thinking of the Commander in Spaceballs. It's like that level of kind of like somewhere between an old timey milkman and a military uniform. There's a central console overlooking the generator room, as well as massive monitors showing that kind of classic satellite trajectory thing from GoldenEye, where it's like Faerun, the moon, as well as sort of orbital lines. You can tell there are a number of identified targets, sort of with those like classic espionage movie little like lines coming out of them with a little indicator saying like what all of them are. And it's basically all of the cities that are scheduled for demolition by the Zeus cannon to make way for primer hoods. In short, if you open a D&D book and pull out a map, it's going to get nuked from space. So they've got a whole scheme, a whole plan. That said, currently none of the flight paths are active because the cannon is facing the moon. There are a number of red alert signals everywhere. There's a lot of overrides. There's pop-up windows with like giant X's that you can see just at a glance. Because this is really like they've clearly taken the safety off this thing in order to do this, and all of the systems are pushing back on it. So it's not how it was intended to operate, and it is wildly unsafe that they're firing this thing anywhere near the control center. And every single piece of technology in this room desperately wants them to know that. That said, there's something a little rock and roll about it, and they kind of feel like cowboys. So there's a little bit of a jovial sense in the room, a little bit like Mission Control when they land a ship, or Cabin in the Woods when they're after the betting wall is done. They're still active. The threat is still active. It's still a red alert situation. But this is fucking cool. This is a cool thing they're getting to do, and they never get to fire the gun this much. There are a number of technicians at various spots doing diagnostics. A lot of kind of Star Trek at console business with big headsets, and not a single one of them is expecting three murderers to bust into this room. And thus, when you do, for all of the alerts that firing the cannon too close to control was dangerous, the one they really needed was the new future, or the artists formerly known as the new future, are coming, because you make an incredible red mist of this room. There is not much they can do. They're doing a highly complicated task. I'm going to roll to see if any of them have time. Okay, so I did get a nat 20. One of them manages to like get to a console and like pick up the phone, but Declan blows his hand off with the phone in it. Again, these floors are not protected floors. Everything else about this base is in place to stop you from being able to do this. So the fact that you're here, you're behind the curtain, and unfortunately, there's not much to be done. What is the cool action hero moment each of you has as you clear this room?
System, you want to go first? I feel like you're going to be the first into the fray.
Yeah.
Honor system. The way I imagine it, and the way you kind of described it, is like, talk about like mission control and stuff like that, right? And there's like one wall of like the screens and stuff like that, right? So I imagine they've got like rows of terminals and stuff like that, kind of going back and also rising up like an auditorium seating situation almost.
Yeah, it's a fairly small room. So I'm going to say there's sort of 2 rows low, and then the sort of auditorium sort of seating up back. There's a few people up there. The place is slightly understaffed because again, like the park isn't open yet. But yeah.
So instead of like running up to any individual person and attacking them, Honor System is running down one of these kind of terminal rows, running past everyone, but everyone he passes, there is one sword swing assigned to them, and they fall almost comedically late after he arrives at the other end of the row.
Okay, so it's just like a full anime, like run a streak, burn to a stop, and then behind you the sliding collapses. All right, awesome. Alyn and Declan.
Declan becomes a stable shooting platform as he marches forwards, just firing his sniper rifle. And one of the supervisors is running at him, just picking up a wrench. But he's ignoring that guy because he sees people with communicator headsets on, and he's just plugging them over shoulder as he holds position. Bam, bam, bam. Shoots the guy's hand who's about to pick up the phone, plugs him in the head. The supervisor gets to Declan and grabs his rifle as though he can spin it aside and yank. Declan just lets it go because it's attached to his torso and it's too long to be able to spin around and hit him with it. So he just uses the yank to power himself forwards and headbutt the guy in the nose, breaking his nose. Then pulls his pistol, John Wicks it up where he grabs the guy's helmet and just does him 3 times through the torso. And then it's just pistol up and guns down the other 2 people at the stands before they can get to a communicator, and his area is clear.
Excellent. And Alyn.
And Alyn just she just moves in forward steadily, just like acid to anyone who has like a projectile weapon of any sort. And if there's anyone left who doesn't have a gun or something, or there's just like two people who've just like frozen or ready for a fist fight, she's going to let that happen and make contact with them and just suck out their lives.
Okay, there's a moment, and I need this for Ryan, because Dracula 2000 is not a good movie, but it has good moments. And there's a moment where Dracula shows up in this interrogation room, and he kills a police officer, and he turns to this doctor in a lab coat, the actor does this amazing, high-pitched, terrified shriek, and Dracula just, like, rests a hand on his mouth and says, "Dignity, doctor," and then eats him. Knowing that if there's 2 of them that try to fight you, and one gets their soul ripped out, and the other panics, what do you say to that second one before you also rip his soul out?
You should have let them unionize.
This episode of Dum Dums and Dragons 2099 features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter, and our DM Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode's sound was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra. The system we're playing is Carbon 2185, and Dum Dums and Dragons artwork is by Del Borovic, who can be found at delborovic.com. Our theme songs are Core Collapse and Sanctuary of the Sky Gods by Nathaniel Yaverne, and our ad music is No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, Jahzzar, all available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. But most importantly, we've got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, or you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Now I'm off to do future things before we return for the next episode of Dum Dums and Dragons 2099. Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Sammy Boy, Orion Birchfield, Scott Garland, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Acrix, Grandma Likes D&D, Alyn, Austin Nut Powers Fry, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Roman Brown, Shulzari, Christian Mendez, Spot Allen, Flynn 1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, Steve Wheeze, D&D and Things, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.